Hello and good afternoon and welcome to our Twinfield session on how to configure and run your VAT reports and returns in Twinfield. Okay, so my name's Karen Carbon and I'll be guiding you through how to do your setup of your VAT and how to run your return. We'll also be looking at some reports as well. Okay, so it's just to let you know that this session will be recorded and the session lasts approximately between 20 to 30 minutes. So after the session, there will be a question and answer session where you can ask questions regarding the functionality. So it's purely just going to be on the functionality within Twinfield, and I won't be answering any questions to do with VAT legislation. So those type of queries, they can be directed to the HMRC. Just to let you know that the next webinar will take place on the 11th of December and it will be on reporting and report design. So what we're going to look at today, so our VAT setup, we're going to be looking at the gateways, your company settings and your VAT rights. We'll have a look at our VAT reports and how to configure them. And we'll also be looking at provisional transactions and our VAT return. Okay, so before we go in and we start the demo, I'm just going to open up a poll question for you. Okay, so we've just launched a poll question. And we'll just give you a couple of minutes just to return your poll. Okay, so we've got the results back from the poll question, and I can see that there's only 15% of you filing manually. We've got the majority at 76% of you filing electronically, and 9% of you said both. So that's great results. Thank you for sharing that information with us. Okay, so let's go in and have a look at our VAT setup. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is the gateway. So those 15% of you that are still filing manually, okay, we're just going to have a little brief go over where you would go to set up the gateway. Okay, so if you head over to your menu bar down the side and go down to VAT, you see you have a little option here called Gateways. So under Gateways, over on the right-hand side, we have HMRC. And under HMRC, you can see that we've got some gateways already set up. But if I need to set up another gateway, I simply just type in the box. So I'm just going to type in that it's my webinar and click Next. Okay, so once you're in this screen, it's given me the code of the webinar. And you can give the gateway another name. So for example, I'm just going to call this, this is my test webinar. And you'll see here that it's asking for a username and password. So that username and password details will be supplied to you by the HMRC. So the next thing you'll need to configure is the access rights. Okay, so who is going to have access to send the VAT return using that gateway? And also you will need to list the companies that is also going to be using this gateway as well. So to do this, we just click on the pencil. And then under the pencil, you can see that you have the option of the company. You also have the option of role and you have user. And we do need to make sure that we are entering in the company that we are going to be using this gateway for. And then once you've made all your changes, you can just click Save to update. Okay, so once you've made all of those changes, it just takes you back to the main screen. So the next thing we'll need to make sure that we have got set up, especially if we want to use this gateway, is just make sure that it's attached in our company settings. So to get to our company settings, we can go to our settings menu on the left-hand side. And then under company settings, we have our little cogwheel option here, which we can click on. Okay, and then once the screen's refreshed, I can see down the left-hand side I have taxes. So if I just click on the option for taxes, it's going to take me straight down to that section. And if I scroll down just a little bit more to bring that a bit more higher for you, under communication, you do have the drop-down. And under the drop-down, you can see that this was the webinar gateway I just created. Okay, so all you need to do is select that gateway from the list. And once you've made those changes, you have your Save button in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, so once all changes have been saved, the next thing we need to make sure that we have set up is our VAT rights. So who can actually send the VAT return within our organisation? So if we now just go back to the left-hand side and go back to VAT, on our option VAT filing, we have the option here called rights. So if I click into rights, then I can see under create or edit, I have these roles all set up which have access to actually create my VAT return, which is great. And then under authorize, which is my next tab, I can see all of the users and roles that have the authority to authorize. And as I'll be using the gateway, I have the different roles and users that can send, also reject, and also approve. So if I go back to create, if you need to add in another role or you want to add in another user, you can simply just click on any of these little add buttons down the side, which is the plus arrow, and it will give you another box. And you can either fill this in by role, by just double clicking in the role box and picking up the role, or just double clicking and picking up the user. And then you have the option to say whether or not they have access to send, create the VAT return. Okay, so you would just go along and you would do this on the appropriate sections. And then once you've actually done all of your updates, you'll just simply save. Okay, so this is our setup. So once the actual setup is done, you know, you're highly unlikely to keep revisiting this every single time you run the VAT return. This is purely, normally it's just like a one-time setup. Okay, so the next area we're going to have a look at, our reports. So to go in and run our VAT reports, we have an option on our menu bar called reports, which is our little bar graph. And if we just click on reports, we have our VAT option. So under our option, we have our main VAT report. So we've got 4 standard, and you can see that we've actually just got some other reports which we have created. So anything that has a dash beside it and then has the report underlined is something that we've just gone in, created and designed. So if I want to go in and just run my VAT return and I want to see all of my transactions, I can just go into the option VAT analysis. And then under my VAT analysis, I have a series of different quarters which I can actually go in and file my VAT return for. Okay, so I've got all my different quarters. So depending on your period settings, you will need to actually just pick the appropriate quarter. So if you're unsure, you can't remember what your quarter is and you don't want to leave this page, just simply go up to the menu bar at the top and you have this icon here. it will allow you to open up a new window so you don't lose where you are. And if you need to see which period that you're in, once again, we can just go back to our settings, or in the search menu, we can just type in period. And it will just give you a list of options. So you can see the top option is company settings periods, which is what I want. Okay, and it just tells me how my periods have been set up. So I can see that my first VAT quarter at the beginning of the year is April through to June, and the next quarter is going to be July through to September. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I can just close out of this window and I'm back on my VAT return screen. Okay, so from the drop down, you can see that we have all of our VAT options available to us. So I'm just going to scroll down to where we've got our quarters. Okay, so I had my first month, which was April to June. And then my second quarter that I have is July to September. And if I've already run my July to September quarter, the next quarter I'll have available to me is going to be October down to December. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and run my VAT return for July to September. So if I click on the option, and then I have the option of my different statuses for provisional and final, and also for any late transactions that might have been filed. So if I now just click next, okay, it's just gone through and run my VAT report for me. So I can see that the transactions which it's picked up for me, you can see all of my purchase transactions as well as my sales transactions as well. And I can see that I have a declaration figure just down the end, which I can go in and which I can just compare. So if I have any transactions which have been posted provisional, one of the things that will happen is when I go to run my final VAT return, those provisional transactions will not be picked up. So you just need to make sure that if there's any provisional transactions that you do want to include into your return, we need to make sure that you make them final before you run your VAT return. So if you need to do any customization to this report, at the top you have a design button. So I can click on design. And in my design area, if I want to bring through, just say for example, my customers and suppliers, I can just simply just take my customer and supplier option here and just drag this onto the report. Okay, so once I've gone in and I've dragged it onto the report, it's here for me, and all I need to do is move it into the position that I want it to be moved into. So if I want to move it, for example, I can just drag it into another area and it will move into that position for me. But once I've made a change on the report, I just need to make sure that I actually rename it and give the report a name. Okay, otherwise it will not allow you to overwrite the original report. And if I scroll down, you can see that I have an option here which says Save Copy. Okay, so I already have this report on my list, so I'm going to cancel out of this screen. And from the drop down at the top, I can just go and just click on the drop down and just pick the report. And here we can see that it's brought through my customer and supplier names on the report. So it's given me exactly the same information, but I've just got a little bit more detail. Okay, so the next area we're going to have a look at is our provisional transactions. So to head into our provisional transaction area, we can go under Financial Professionals. And under Financial Professionals, you've got Transactions. And you have your provisional transactions here, or you can actually just type provisional in the search area and it will just bring up the search criteria for you. and give you a hyperlink to go to exactly the same place. So if I now click into provisional transactions, and I can see here on my screen that there are no other sales or purchases or bank entries or even journals in that, that may affect my VAT return. So once I've actually done that check, the next thing I can go ahead and do is go ahead and run my VAT return. Okay, so once again on the left hand side, let's just go to VAT. And then under VAT, let's click on the option for VAT return. Okay, so under my VAT return, I can see that I'd already started to run a VAT return. So if that's the case, and this is a report that you simply don't want, okay, you can simply just click. If there is a red X beside the quarter that you no longer wish to run, you can actually simply remove it. I just want to draw your attention to the quarter at the top, which is my Jan to March. And as you can see, the actual icon has actually changed slightly. So you can see that this time it's a magnifying glass. And the reason why this one has a magnifying glass beside it is because this return has actually been finalized. So once the return has been finalized, you will notice that all of the actual approve button at the end will be grayed out for you. So there's nothing else you can actually do on this return. My return, which I ran for April through to June, hasn't been authorized yet. So, hasn't been approved yet. So if I was to approve this return, it's now locked. And you can see now that the icon at the top has completely mirrored my quarter for Jan to March. Okay, so because I had a VAT return already run, it's going to be different from my report which I ran earlier. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on this new button here just to run the return, and let's see what results it gives us. So I'm now just going to hit the refresh button, and I can see that this is the amount on my VAT return. So if I need to actually view and see which transactions have gone through, I just simply click on the edit pencil, and it gives me by box what the VAT is and what the turnover is, and then I also have the magnifying glass which I can use to drill down. So here I can see that I've got a collection of different invoices which has been posted through, and I can just go ahead and just review and just make sure that the information that appears on the report is correct. And then I can also go ahead and just view all of the other transactions as well, which has gone through on the report. And if you want to go ahead and cross-reference it again with the reports in your reports area, then you can go ahead and just run that VAT analysis report, but you should have exactly the same information that you have just by drilling down and looking at those transactions on the magnifying glass. Okay, so now if we go back to our return. Okay, so the next option is to view the report. So if you just want to send this over to your client, for example, or you just want to see what the VAT figures are going to look like in the boxes, you can actually just click on the little report button, and it will show you just the old green type VAT return form with all of those boxes pre-filled in for you. And if you're happy with those figures, the next step is going to be to authorize the VAT return. So we've got the little thumbs up button. So if I click on that icon, it's authorized my VAT return for me. So the next option that I have here is my gateway. Okay, so this return is not going to go through the gateway because the information that I've put in, the username and password, doesn't exist. It's just dummy information. So if I click the send button, it will come up and it will ask me which gateway that I want to select, and I'm happy with the gateway that's in place, and I can just click send. So on my status, you can see here that I've got the sending, it's got the option as be of sending. And if I just click on the refresh button here, you can see now, because my credentials are wrong, I've basically got a reject message coming up under the status, which is what I'm expecting. Okay, but in your environment, once you've actually sent it through, if it's been sent and it's been received, you will just have the status will be updated for you. And once you're happy that the return has been received and you no longer want to make any changes, then we can just go ahead and just click the approve button on the end to finalize your VAT return. Okay, so I'm going to head back to the main menu. Okay, so that takes us through the whole of the setup. So that takes us through all the setup, takes us through looking at our reports, and also takes us through running the VAT return. Okay, so before we go into our questions and answer sessions, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us on the webinar today, and just let us know what you think. We do appreciate your feedback.